Good day and welcome to this episode of CodeAlong. Today we'll be looking at HTML forms. In most projects you'll be developing, a good number of them will have a need to collect data from the users, and HTML has the ability to do that with the use of the HTML forms. Okay, so let's create a page for that while we look at the concepts involved. Forms.html. Okay. HTML forms. Okay. Then we'll have our stage one first. HTML forms. Okay. Now, to create a form, to create HTML forms, we use the form element, which is basically like a container for the input elements. Okay, we'll look at the input elements. Will be here. We'll look at them later. But let's look at this form elements. You can see that I had to delete an attribute. The general operation of a form is to collect input from data from the user and send to the server. Okay, remember when we, in our first episode, we're talking about how the web works, and we're talking about requests. So I told you, like, it could be getting data from the server or sending data to the server. To send data to the server, use a form. Now, this form will mandatorily have two attributes if you want it to work. The first one is the action. Action is used to tell it which server script should the data in these forms be sent to. So let's say I have a page on my server that is called login.php. Okay, like I said, it's going to be whatever you're sending it to must be a server-side technology, must be written with one of the server-side technologies. Okay, so the action attribute stipulates which server-side script you're sending the data from this form to. Now, the next one is the method. The method is used to stipulate how you're sending it. So you are either getting a file, you're either getting data from the server, or you are posting data to the server. Okay, so basically, most times you'll be using post. So these are two of the most important attributes for the form tag. Of all the form elements, the input element is the most used, and they are of different types. So let's look at them one after the other. We have one of the most commonly used ones. So let's put the input tag here. You could see that it comes, first of all, is a self-closing tag. It doesn't have the closing tag. Okay, take notes, there's no closing tag here. Now, it has this mandatory type attribute, which is used to stipulate what type of input it is. So let me create the other ones. So we have input. There's so many of them. I'll change it to password for collecting passwords. Okay, we'll look at them. We'll look at the rendition and then see the differences. So we have an input tag for radio. Okay, radio. Okay, and we have one for checkbox. Okay, then we have one for submitting, so the submit button. Input type submit, it is to submit the form. There's so many of them that there is one for the input type dates for the date drop down. There's another for email. Okay, there's so many. There's another for number. These are the commonly used ones. Number. Okay, then. Okay. Let's look at this before we move down to other ones that are not input tags. So let's see what we have. Forms. So you can see them. This is for the text. This is for password. You can see the difference. Okay. Now this is a radio button. This is checkbox. This is submit. This is the date for picking up the dates. This for email. You won't see the need for this, but if you submit this form without giving it something like whatever the name at something else dot something else, it won't submit because it's an email field. Then this is number. I can't type character. Okay, I can't type characters here. I can only put numbers. It won't allow you to type characters. As you can see, you can go up and down. Okay. Now there are other elements that are not that are not input elements. Let's look at I think two of the most important ones. The first one is the text area. The text area. Text area. Okay, I have some fields. Some fields that we're going to look at. This name field is mandatory for these ones, but we'll come back to them later. So let's remove this. Okay, the text area is used to create an area for you to input large texts. Okay, it could be bigger. Let me arrange these properly. Of course, remember I told you of the container tag div. I'm going to put this here. They're all going to come in divs. Div. Then I'll copy and paste them and then move them. Okay. Then sorry, I'm scrolling. I'll cut this, paste it here, 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 then create another one for that one. And number, and I would like to recreate this text box. There are two other important attributes I want us to look at, so let's look at it. Text area. Okay, so let me pull off the name and the ID. Look at them later. Now look at the concept of columns and rows. So let's refresh. Okay, this is how I like it. The columns, it's counting. It says 30, which means I could enter 30 characters here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, the next one moves to the next line. So the 30 columns means you want to accept 30 characters per line. Okay, so the 10 rows has to do with the number of rows you could have. So let's copy them and paste them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's why I have 30 columns and 10 rows here. All right, so you could increase them 20 by say 90. It becomes what's that? Okay, column 90. Is this 90? Okay, this is not smaller than 90. Okay, let me pick what I had already. This is 30. No, it can be codes 90. What's wrong? Okay. So that's 100 by 20. So 100 columns like this are like 20. Then we have another important one, the select. So it comes as a select container. The select container tag. Let me pull out this name and ID. We'll come back to them later. And then you provide the options to be selected with the option tag. Then by default, I will have this be nothing. Then I'll say maybe select. I'll inform the user to select states. Then I'll have my states here, option. Leave the value empty. I'll have Anambra here. Anambra, Lagos, Kano, Rivers, Sokoto, Abuja. Okay, so let's all have Let's see, drop down, we're gonna pick one of them. Right? Okay, so with this said, if you submit this form, the values you type in will not be sent to the server. Why? There's an attribute that is used to stipulate to hold down the values. That attribute is called the name attribute. Okay. Previously we saw the name attribute, and I'd like to tell you how important that is. Very, very important. These are form with, you can see that none of the input tags, none of the form elements, these input tags, the text area and the select, none of them have got the name attribute. If we submit this form, nothing will be sent to the server. The name attribute is used to hold down the value that the user inputs. So despite the fact that the user could type in values here, because we do not have the name attribute there, it will be held temporarily and sent to the server. Okay, so for us to enable our form to do that, we have the name attribute. So I could name this username. Okay, this is for the user to input the username, and name here will be password. Okay, let me call it password. Okay, let's know that this is a password. This will normally come as okay, let's name. Let's say the name here is gender. Okay, now the name for this, we'll still come back to these radio and checkboxes, how they're implemented. The name for this should be hobbies. Okay, the name for our submit button, maybe say submit, let's call it submit action. Okay, then our dates name should be DOB, that's date of birth. Then our email should have a name of email. Our number should be, what could be number now? I'm gonna call it children, the number of children. Okay. Okay. Then the text area will be, let's call it name for the text area is inquiry. Let's say we want the user to type whatever he wants to ask us here, and here the name will be in the select. The name here will be state of origin. Okay. Now if we refresh this page, maybe type things down, put the password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, select gender, select our checkbox, pick a date, type down my email, pick a number 1 2, then I am asking you as my inquiry, select a state as Sokoto, and then submit. Oh, sorry. Of course, it's here because it's trying to send to the page. Can you remember our page, our login.php? That's this. It's trying to send there, but you can't see it, so it returned an error. But let's remove that, and I want us to see how our values were. So let's get back again. I refresh the page. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Gender checkbox, date of birth, email, number 2, whatever, and the select a state, so and then submit. Okay, so please take note here. Can you see that our username is equal to gOZieCHUKWU, password is equal to 1 2 3 4 5 6, gender is on, hobbies is on, submit action is submitted, and okay, let me copy this to the end. Let me copy the whole and paste it on Notepad so we analyze it. And I would like to delete from the URL section. Okay, then put them down on different lines so we get to see them. Gender, hobbies, submit action, date of birth, email, children, inquiry, states. Okay, so we don't have any value for a state of origin, so we could just put values here, copy these states and put them back here. So that's why it was blank. Copy this, put them here. Copy this, put them here. Copy this here. Copy this. Okay, same for this one. Okay, so you can see if you compare our name attributes, if you compare, let me pull this up, compare our name attributes with what we have here. Okay, let me minimize this. Okay, and reduce it. You can see that they match: username, password, radio. Okay, that's for gender, sorry. Username, password, gender. Okay, hobbies, submit action, date of birth, email, children, inquiry, state of origin. Okay, so that's how it's sent as a data. So let's get to radio. Okay, please, before we get to radio, one more thing. There's another attribute called a label. Okay, well, let's look at the need for the label. There are two different needs, two different reasons for the label. Like if you look at this form, you can't even tell what you're supposed to put in each field. So if a user comes to this page, you're confused. We have an attribute called a label. We have an element called a label. Okay, it has a 4 attributes. The 4 attributes should be equal to whatever the ID of this element is. So you're supposed to provide this with an ID and call it maybe UK. Let's call it the same name, username, and then this should match this. Why? Because the label is also used for providing disabled people with ability to know what the form is all about. So these disabled people, especially the blind ones, they use screen readers. So the only way the screen reader will know what this form is all about is to, why is it holding back? Funny, and I know I was expecting to see the label and I didn't see anything, and I don't know what the problem is. We don't have values here. So let's say this is let's tell the user that he should input his username here. Okay, so let's refresh. Can you see username for the as the label for that input tag? Okay, same thing here. So let's copy this, paste it here, change this to password, provide the ID here as password, and change this to password. Okay, so we'll do the same thing here. For gender. Okay, so we'll call this gender. We'll come back to this. Remember I told you we'll come back to this too. The radio button and the checkboxes. So okay, so ID gender. Okay, pull this off. Okay, let's leave it this one. ID for this is hobbies. I'm not too sure about these checkboxes and radio button for the IDs, but let's have it there until we get back to it. Hobbies. Okay, now I have put the level 2. None for, there's no need for that. So we have this for DOB, then date of birth. Okay, then we'll have ID, DOB. Same thing here. That's email, and we'll change this to email, and we'll have the ID as email. For children, okay, same here. Let's copy this. Okay, so we have inquiry here, inquiry, and I'm supposed to assign this an ID. Okay, same here. So let's take this state of origin, put it here too, and make it readable states of origin, then ID state of origin. Okay, so let's see what we have. Okay, so they all have. Let me move this submit button to the bottom of the page. That's where it's supposed to be. Where is it? Submit. Okay, somewhere here. It should be at the bottom of the form. Okay, so you can now see that we have labels. Now let's get to these radio button and checkboxes. Radio buttons are used to render input elements where you want the user to select one out of multiple options. So let's say for gender, the person is either male or female. Okay. Now, that's why I was skeptical of the ID. You can't have two IDs on the same page of the same name. So take this off. Now, what I'll have here is the value. When you select this, what value do I send to the server? Male. What value do I? Of course, most times I use N. We'll get to the server side. We'll look at why I use M and F. Okay, now take note of the fact that their names must be the same. Their names must be the same. Okay, let's see what we have first. Then we can now. This is how a checkbox works. You have to select one of the multiple options. If you mistakenly assign both of them different names, either consciously or typographical error, you will now have ability to select both of them, which is wrong. It's not the ID. It's not what you want to do. What you want to do? What the user cannot be male and female at the same time. You want the user to select one out of both of them. Okay, so we are going to make sure the names are same. Okay, so the user could select one. Now the other element like that is the hobbies. That's why I said that's also the same reason why I was skeptical about the ID. Okay, we have a value here. The value will be maybe skipping. So let's say that's your hobby, and we'll put this here. And I'll get this. They will all have the same name. So let's say you like running too, and you like reading. You like movies. You like sleeping. I don't know why you should like that. You like coding. Of course, that's cool. We change this to running. Okay. Take note of the fact that the names are the same. Okay, so here we can now select, of course, checkboxes. You can select multiple options. Okay, so what we're going to do is to submit again. Let's use this form again and submit them and look at the values we have. So here I'll put gOZieCHUKWU for my password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. For gender male, I like coding, like movies too. I love reading. I love football. Football's not here. Select 19th. Put my email, number of children too. My inquiry. I do not have one now. Okay. Now I'll state of origin. I'll select a number, and then I'll submit. Okay. So let's select this again and paste it here. Then let's sort it out. Let's analyze this. Delete from here down. That's the file path. And split this on different lines. Okay, password, hobbies. Okay, you can see my different hobbies. Date of birth, email, children, inquiry, state origin. Okay, so you can all see them now. Okay, sorry, my submit action. Oh, sorry, placed my cursor wrongly. Okay, so this is how to collect data from a form and then ready to be submitted to a server. Finally, there are several other form elements that you could use. Our advice, we might not cover them here now in this section while we're building our social media app. If we have a need for other ones that are not mentioned here, we'll talk about them. But I would advise you to do your self-study. Go to some very resourceful sites like W3 School, and then check the HTML section of it. Click on forms. You see that there's a reference there, a list of all the form elements available. Go through them and know what they do. There are so many of them, so many very exciting and interesting ones.